I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. This is the speaker portion of our Connections Over Coffee gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Dana Herra is speaking on repurposing your content. Dana is an award-winning writer turned content marketer. She creates scalable plans to help businesses achieve real value from their content without overextending their people or their budget. Dana is also a branding expert who helps teams deliver the right message to the right audience in the right tone. She lives near the suburbs of Chicago with her family, including a small dog who often photobombs her video calls. You can learn more about Dana at danaherra.com. Dana, thank you for being here with us and sharing your expertise. Looking forward to your talk.
Hey, Jenny, thanks so much for having me. Everybody, it's so great to see you. Thanks for coming in today. I hope I can provide you some value today. And I will at the end put up my contact info. So if anybody wants to continue a conversation or has specific questions that are unique to you that you don't want to put out in the group, please be in touch. So today I'm going to be talking about repurposing your content to squeeze more value out of it. I'm not going to be giving you like formulas and templates right now. I have that. That's a different talk. But really what I want to talk about today is shifting your mindset and your approach towards repurposing content so that we're actually repurposing concepts and not just repurposing content. You'll see in a minute when we talk about it that there's a whole different value proposition to that. So there are main challenges that I hear from people about repurposing their content is they don't know how to break apart big content. They don't know how to make their old content feel fresh. They know it's still good, but it feels stale. And they don't know what channels to use. Like I have this content, where do I even put it? There are so many channels and there's more every day. So those are the things that we're going to be talking about primarily today. So I'm going to start with talking a little bit about why repurpose content. It uses your time and energy efficiently. Nobody has either of those to waste. It builds your brand. And it's a lot easier than coming up with ideas from scratch. So 1 and 3 are related. Obviously, the less time you have to spend coming up with ideas for content, the less time and energy, the more energy efficient you're going to be. But that second piece, building brand, is often overlooked. So I want to take a moment to mention that. Before we began, Sherry mentioned that you want to become known before you're needed. And that is the goal of content marketing in general. So content repurposing builds your brand because the more often your audience sees and hears the same things from you, the more they will start to connect that thing with you in their mind. You might feel like you're being repetitive. Repeat to yourself, repetition builds brands. It's okay to be repetitive. If you're constantly putting out different topics and different things, your audience might love you as a content creator, but you don't want them to stay your audience who loves you as a content creator. You want them to become your customers. And to become your customers, they have to know what you're all about. It has to be narrowed down to just a couple of things. So repetition builds brands. Tell yourself that when you feel like, I've already said this 3 times this month. I don't know if I should say it again. Say it again. It's okay. So now to get into repurposing your concepts rather than just repurposing your content. Content is your actual creative output. It's your words, it's your images. Your blog is content. Your podcast is content. Concepts are the ideas and knowledge that your content conveys. And that is really where the juice is. It's where that brand building expertise is. And those are the things that we can really dig into and repurpose and get a lot more mileage out of. If I could, can I share screen, Jenny? Okay, excellent.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to share a slide here for you all. Can you all see my screen? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. So repurposing your concepts. Here's the main takeaway of your blog post, your podcast episode, your video. The concepts within, you get your main takeaway, all your supporting arguments, those are individual concepts. Any examples or metaphors, those are individual concepts. Any questions answered are individual concepts. And I see a couple of blank looks. I'm going to get into an example here in just a moment. That's why I wanted to share the screen. But the reason I bring this up is because you might feel like this is the only concept you have to repurpose, the main takeaway from your blog post or from your podcast episode. I did a blog post on repurposing content. That's it. That's all I can talk about. But there are other things in there that fleshed it out, that supported it, and you can repurpose all of them. So repurposed content looks like this. We have a blog post, and then maybe we share something to Facebook, we share it to LinkedIn, we create an email. And now we're done. It's tapped out. Here's an example of that from SparkToro. I'm going to read this because I know these are screenshots, so I know they're tiny. It's a SparkToro blog. In the era of zero-click platforms, native content, and walled gardens, does anyone still send meaningful traffic to the open web? This is their Instagram post. Does anyone still send meaningful traffic to the open web? This is their LinkedIn post. Does anyone still send meaningful traffic to the open web? This is repurposed content, and it's great. They're getting that message out across multiple audiences. But we can repurpose concepts and get a lot more mileage out of it. So here's another SparkToro blog. The essential rule for successful guest pitches in your 5-step playbook. And her first rule, I have one rule before I ever pitch myself to join someone's podcast or YouTube show, write a guest post for someone's blog, or present at someone's webinar or conference. I listen to, read, or watch their content. So Amanda repurposed this content on her LinkedIn. You see right here, it's the exact same words, repurposed content. But what if we repurpose the concepts? I can tell right now from the title, without reading this blog, there are at least 6 concepts. There's her essential rule, and then there's 5 steps. So every one of those could be a new piece of content. I broke down some examples here, what that might look like. So because this is a 5-step playbook, I know that this is a how-to blog. Well, we could probably create another blog that's a why blog. The number 1 rule for pitching yourself as a podcast guest and why it's important. This is the same concept. She's already come up with this. She already knows the content here. She's already created the idea. Let's approach it from a different angle. Now we have 2 blog posts instead of 1. Now she's got her essential rule, concept number 1. She already did a written social media post summarizing that rule on her LinkedIn. You could also do that in any other written platforms like Facebook or Twitter. We could write an email about the first rule, which is consume content before pitching yourself as a guest. And that's where people will often stop. What else can we do with this? We could create a video explaining that you should consume content before pitching yourself as a guest. We could hop into Canva and make a graphic with that one opening line that she was repurposing. We could dig in a little bit deeper, make a series of graphics and do a slideshow that can be posted on LinkedIn and Instagram. At this point, if we're just ideating here, just making a list. Actually, I did this math. Hang on, let me find my math here. All right. So over the last couple of slides, we've come up with a list of 17 different pieces of content across 8 different channels that are just on the first essential rule in her blog post. Remember, there are 5 steps in the playbook. There are 6 concepts in this blog. So 5 more times 17, we could come up with 85 pieces of content across 8 channels not counting the original blog. And that ideation work coming up with those 6 concepts, that's already done. She did that in the first blog. So just right there, 8 channels, 86 pieces of content. That's a little mind-blowing. So I'm going to ask you to pull your mind back in, because that's also huge and overwhelming and ridiculous. Do not create 86 pieces of content. If you felt like that's where we're taking you, I'm not taking you there. I'm going to stop sharing here because it's kind of weirding me out to not see your faces. There you are. So repurposing content is easier than starting from scratch. That does not mean that it is easy. If somebody is trying to tell you that it's easy, they are either lying to you, or they don't know what they're talking about, or they're trying to sell you something. It's easier because the idea is there, but every one of those 86 pieces of content still has to be created. And once you have it, you still have to distribute it. You have to post it to LinkedIn. You have to post it to Facebook. And if you're doing this as part of a content marketing plan, you need to know what works and what doesn't. So then you're going to have to track those pieces, track your metrics. It is ridiculous to try and do that across 8 channels. Don't try that unless you have a whole team of people doing it for you. Choose your channels. So that was just possibilities. Now our minds are open to the possibility of all the things we could do, all the places we could post. If we step away from repurposing content and start repurposing concepts. I want to talk for a second about how to find those concepts. That was an easy one because it was a how-to. Again, it was a 5-step playbook. One, concept, 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 concept. What if you have a piece of content that's not a how-to? Well, a lot of you have blogs, so let's take a blog post. Look at your blog post. Do you have subheadings and subsections? If you do, every time you put in a subheading, that's a new concept. That's why you put a subheading in, because you're deviating from the original point. Even if you don't have subheadings, just do a skim of the first couple of lines of each paragraph. How many times do you introduce a supporting argument? Each supporting argument is a new concept. If you use an example or a metaphor, that's a new concept. You can use the heck out of those. This line that I keep saying, repurpose your concepts, not your content. I use this all over the place. This is not the first time that I didn't come up with it for this talk. I came up with it once and said, oh yeah, that's pretty good. I'm going to keep using it, right? So latch on to those metaphors and examples, especially if you get good feedback from it. If you present it to your community, communities are a great place to test concepts. Social media is also a great place to test concepts, because you can kind of put it out there in a very low risk environment and see if people respond. And if people respond to it and the light goes on in their eyes and they say, oh yeah, okay, great. That's something, move that to a new list of stuff that works, right? Okay, we're gonna keep hammering on to this one. So now we've talked about choosing your channels. Sorry, I'm a little all over the place here today, but I wanted to make sure I got into how to find your concepts. So now I'm going to come back around to don't make 86 pieces of content, because that's insane. Even if you're a professional marketer, that's insane. You don't have to be everywhere. Don't try to be everywhere. Catherine, before we started, you mentioned that one of the things, especially when you're building your business or redesigning your business, is just figuring out the basics. Where do I need to be? Because the answer is not across 8 platforms. That's craziness. I will generally tell people to start with 2. You start with one owned channel or relationship channel. And those are things that people seek you out on. That's your blog, your podcast, your email list. You're not really drawing in new people there, but you're building a relationship with your audience there. And then you're going to want one discovery channel. That's a place where new people can find you. So that would be social media, Substack, YouTube, the places where people outside your audience can find your content and then choose to follow you on your relationship channels. That's it. Start with 2. If you get really comfortable at them and you get really good at them and you want to add a 3rd, you can add 1 more. If you want more than 3, hire somebody to help you manage it. It can be a part-time person. You can go on Upwork and find a part-time social media manager to just take over your discovery channel. But you have a business to run. You don't have time to do the thing you do and also be a full-time marketer. you just, there's no reason for you to have to take essentially a second unpaid job as the marketer for the business that you're already doing full-time. So take some pressure off there. Start with 2. 3 only once you get really comfortable with it and you find you're not spending a lot of time. If you find, okay, I have extra time, then I can add another maybe social media channel. And repurpose the content across those channels too. When I showed you on the SparkToro repurposing content slide that their Instagram and their LinkedIn were identical, if you are making, I know LinkedIn is something that Sherry was talking about using. If you're making slideshows for LinkedIn, if you're using a Canva or something to make those little carousels, those fit on Instagram perfectly. It is a perfect one-to-one fit. Or vice versa. If you're making reels on Instagram that are just a series of slides, those are LinkedIn carousels. You don't have to do anything else to it. Just, copy paste. If you're using Substack, that's a blog and an email, because it's essentially your blog that's getting emailed out to your subscribers. So look for ways to be efficient. Now, if we're going to choose just those 2 channels, which ones do we choose? Because there's 1,000,000,002 of them. You're going to want to look for the intersection between what do you like to do and where's your audience at. If you really like writing and you hate being on video, don't start a YouTube channel. Don't do it. If you hate making videos, you're going to hate making videos. And if you hate doing it, you're not going to do it and it's not going to be consistent. And then you'll be mad at yourself. At the same time, if your ideal target audience is not on LinkedIn, then you might love posting to LinkedIn, but you're never going to get customers there. You need to find that intersection of where do they hang out and how can I reach them there? And your options are not that limited. Let's say you do love making video. Well, really, you can use any social media platform and share short form videos. Like, oh, I'd be on LinkedIn, but I hate writing posts. I wish I could just make videos. Make videos. You can post videos to LinkedIn. But then there are some that don't fit, right? If you really love to write, you're not going to be happy on Instagram. Yes, you can post slides with text on them on Instagram, but you're not going to get traction there. So your top concern is, where is the audience hanging out? Where can I reach them? How do they want to receive this message? And then once you've figured that out, figure out, okay, how can I give them what they want without making myself miserable? Because just like you shouldn't have to be a full-time marketer, you also shouldn't have to be miserable. If you hate making your content, you're not going to do it. And then you'll beat yourself up later because you'll feel like, oh, I should be doing more. Or your content itself will suffer. If you're constantly putting out content that you hate making, it will show. Your passion won't be there. Your expertise won't come through, and it's still not going to work. So that intersection is really important. And when you get to the point where you literally don't have any time for any of this, then hire people. Again, you can hire people part-time, you can contract people. It doesn't have to be entirely on your shoulders. something that it was not in my presentation, but I wanted to bring up because it came up earlier in a breakout room, was also setting goals, not just for your content, but for what your content is supposed to do for your business. As business owners, we can feel a lot of external pressure that I need to be content marketing. I hear people say so many times, oh, I don't market with content, but I need to, or I need to get better at it. And the question then is, okay, but why? Is your business growing? Are you finding customers in other ways? Are you achieving your business goals? If yes, then why do you need to get better at content? You might not. I say that as a content marketer. You might not need to improve your content marketing skills. You might be just fine. Don't let external pressures of other people saying you should be on social media, you should be blogging, you should have a podcast, you should. Why? You should be going after your goals is what you should be doing. And you should do whatever thing is going to get you there without making you miserable. That's what you should do. Now, if your goal is to expand your market beyond your local area, okay, then yes, content can help you do that. If you've been just networking in person and you want to expand beyond that, that is a goal that content can help you get to. But start with your goal. Why do you want to do this? I was saying in an introduction recently, or just earlier today, the reason that I began creating content strategies, I started as just a writer. The reason I do content strategies is because people would hire me to write their content, and I would say, okay, great. What's the goal of this piece? Why do you have a blog? And the answer was, well, because we publish a blog every week. That's our content strategy. That's not a strategy. That's just a thing that you're doing. And I feel bad taking your money because this blog isn't going to do anything if I don't have a goal in mind when I'm writing it. Figure out where do you want your business to go? Is there a way content can help you get there? If the answer is yes, content can help me get there, okay, how? What are your goals for the content? Is it to reach new people? Is it to build a deeper relationship? Is it to put people in some kind of a funnel? Figure out what you're trying to do. Then build your plan around that. And when you're planning out your content, figure out what you're going to measure to see if it's actually doing that thing and how often you're going to measure it. Don't measure daily. It can be real tempting if you become a metrics junkie to like log in and look at those metrics every day or every week. It doesn't matter. Content takes some time to build traction. I would say you could check every 30 days, every 90 days. If you're trying a new strategy, give it 90 days before you make any tweaks or adjustments to it, because you're not going to see instant results. You might see an immediate uptick in engagement or response, and then it'll fall and you'll get discouraged, and then it'll go up, and then it'll fall. So give yourself 90 days before you decide this works or this doesn't. And probably you're going to somewhere in between. Well, this kind of works, but not as well as I thought it would. Okay, then we can improve it. What messages were really resonating? What platforms were really resonating? Oh, wow, these people on LinkedIn really liked those videos, but I got nothing from those slideshows. I guess I'll stop. Let's try this quarter not doing slideshows and doing more videos. Let's see what that does. It's okay to experiment. It's okay to try and fail. Just know what you're trying to do. And this has gone into a completely different place than the presentation I planned to give. So Jenny, apologies for that, because I was going to talk about repurposing content, and now I'm talking about planning your content, but they're all connected. When you have that plan, then repurposing is how you execute on that plan. But I feel like we needed to talk about that, about how to plan out what you're going to do in the first place. And then once you've got that plan in place, plan how you can repurpose. When you're creating content, think about it in the creation stage. What are the ideas in here that I could also express in some other different ways? And that way you can build it while you're on a roll. You can build things at the same time, or at least have a list of ideas. So next time you have your content creation time in your calendar, you know what you're going to make. Okay, yeah, I was going to take the subheading from that blog and write a new blog about it, or record a video about it, or what have you. Okay, I just created that slideshow for LinkedIn. Let me pop it over to Instagram real quick too, since I'm in there anyway. Uh, it's not as overwhelming as it feels once you have a plan and you start doing it. The problem is just that everyone tells you to do it and nobody tells you how. Everyone tells you content market, everybody tells you repurpose your content, and nobody tells you what that's supposed to mean. So you're left over here like, okay, I guess I will cut up my long video into chunks and post them on LinkedIn. Okay, great plan. If those chunks are the specific pieces that show your expertise, that drive your business forward, that move you towards your goals, find your concepts, repurpose your concepts, be picky about the ones you repurpose. If I have a great post that starts with a cute story about my kids, that's not necessarily the part that I'm going to repurpose. I might, but not in a short form. I'm not going to have just the story about my kids and not the call to action. Because yeah, people responded well to that, but it's not going to drive my business forward. Ginny, I think I want to stop now because I want to make sure we have some time for questions. So thank you all for letting me ramble on and deliver a very different presentation than what I started with. So questions, comments, feedback.
Well, we're going to
I'd love to
stop
hear
the
it.
recording before we take questions, but I want to ask everybody here with us on Zoom to unmute yourselves. And let's just applaud Dana and let her hear how much we appreciated this wisdom that she shared with us.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Dana. That was really good stuff. And I would tell you, when you first started, I was one of those people that had that look on my face that says, what, 80 some pieces of content? So thank you for getting to that very quickly. And I really appreciate your straightforwardness and your honesty about, we don't need everything people are trying to pitch to us. So I want to thank anyone who's watching this live or watching the replay. If you want to join us for one of our Zoom or in-person gatherings, go to my website, opwgc.com, where you can find out all about our community and the magazine. That link is in the text of this video, and the link to Dana's website is also in the text of this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. Okay, I'm not finding end recording.